Hello, friends. It's me, Sharia, and this is the Sharia Mac channel where I am documenting my entrepreneurship journey as a licensed clinical social worker in private practice, also creating a mental wellness brand. As a therapist, I work with career driven caregivers, young adults who are anxious or depressed by adulthood, and new social workers and therapists experiencing imposter syndrome or questioning their career choice. If you are new here, thank you so very much for clicking on this video. And if you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so very much for coming back. If you're new and you're a viewer but not yet a subscriber, please consider subscribing to continue to follow my entrepreneurship journey and receive some mental health, entrepreneurship, inspiration, or information. This February made 1 year in private practice entrepreneurship full time, and being the month of love in Black History Month, I focus on encouraging self love while also incorporating it for myself. I did a self love, self care blog series over on the mental wellness blog. I use self love and self care interchangeably. I feel as though both are necessary for the other. I wanted to take the time to share some of my non aesthetically pleasing self care, self love practices and tips with you as well, especially if you are an entrepreneur. Self care, self love is to pour back into yourself to be able to show up for the others, present, full, and intentional. Self care slash self love, again, does not have to be aesthetically pleasing as social media suggests, and it's much more than just rose petal baths, expensive skincare products, manis, petties, and the occasional brunch. Self care is also not for the today version of you, but also the future version of you, and should incorporate physical health practices, mental health practices, as well as financial health practices for the version of you today, as well as for the future version of yourself. When it comes to practicing self care, again, self love and self care require compassion, which means sometimes self care looks like making a to do list and tidying up or organizing an area, but also being okay if it's not as tidy as you would have liked, or if you didn't check everything off of the to do list. That compassion and that empathy is necessary, and you have to be intentional with giving it to yourself. Self care can look like recognizing that you need rest and prioritizing it. Self care and self love can also look like recognizing being overwhelmed and validating that feeling and giving yourself what is needed to resolve or improve those emotions, such as taking things off of your plate. That is actually one of the things that I was intentional about this month. I actually got off of social media from the hours of 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., which means doom scrolling was not the first thing I did in the morning. And also, I was very intentional and present with my family in the evening after 8 p.m., sometimes before. Um, it also can look like, for me, it looked like not recognizing that maybe posting 2 times a week, posting 2 videos on YouTube 2 times a week, or posting 2 blogs twice a week was too much for me, and maybe I need to step back and reevaluate my commitments. I also had new things come up that took precedence. My son is trying to lose weight, and I've been very active in helping him and cheering him along on his health journey. And so that meant that YouTube and the mental wellness blog took a back seat, and that also meant that my channel would grow slower or could grow slower, and the blog could grow slower. And I had to, resolve that and be okay with that. So as far as self care or self love tips, one is, prioritizing rest. The second would be recognizing when you're overwhelmed and giving yourself the permission to take things off of your plate. But lastly, checking in with yourself often without minimizing or excusing how you're feeling and ensuring that you are giving yourself what you need. And this looks just like it would look if you were checking in on a friend or a loved one. Like, hey, are you okay? You good? And what can I do to make it better? Or do you need me to do anything? Though that very same conversation is what you have to do with yourself. I personally feel like mental health, although discussions about mental health are becoming much more mainstream and acceptable, I do think that it should be, especially if you find your mental health declining or you find your mental health struggling, it should be something that is done daily, just as you would have to do if you had a physical health problem. Even if it's something as simple as taking a medication, you would do that daily to maintain your physical health. And I think the same thing should be done on with your financial health as well as your mental health. And it doesn't have to be expensive or extensive or aesthetically pleasing. I discuss more about self love and self care on the Mental Wellness blog. The link to that is down in the description box. If you enjoyed this type of content and you would like weekly entrepreneurship and or mental health information and inspiration, please consider subscribing and leaving a comment or a thumbs up. Also, check out the blog for weekly mental health information and inspiration, as well as monthly mental health information and inspiration in the form of a newsletter. Again, thank you so very much for watching. How do you self care? How do you prioritize and incorporate self care in your life? Drop a comment down below. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye.